The chamber lights of the Galactic High Council pulsed with an eerie bioluminescence, casting shifting patterns across the assembled delegates. Ambassador Elias Vance adjusted his tie as he stepped onto the speaker's platform, his polished dress shoes clicking against the alien alloy floor. Around him towered representatives from a dozen species, crystalline phosphorians refracting light through their geometric bodies, Octavians with tentacles coiled around data tablets, and the ever-present Cereleon orbs floating silently in their assigned sectors. A low hum of conversation filled the air, none of it directed at him. Ambassador Vance of Earth, announced the Council Arbiter, a towering Zentax Hive speaker whose segmented carapace gleamed under the chamber lights. The floor recognizes your petition for Federation protection. Vance took a steadying breath. The weight of Earth's future pressed against his shoulders. Council members, he began, voice steady despite the dryness in his throat. The Zentax Hive Mind has consumed 17 systems in the past cycle alone. Their advance shows no sign of stopping. Earth requests immediate inclusion in the Mutual Defense Pact. A ripple of clicks and chitters passed through the assembled delegates. One of the Phosphorians shimmered with amusement, facets glittering. Your request is noted, said the Arbiter, mandibles twitching. But the Federation Strategic Council has already assessed your species. The vote was unanimous. Vance's stomach tightened. He knew what was coming. Hive Speaker Vexlath unfolded from its podium, elongated limbs stretching as it addressed the chamber. The Zentax Hive Mind has reviewed humanity's military capabilities. Your species lacks cohesion. No hive, no unity. You are. It paused, mandibles clicking in what might have been laughter. Swarm fodder, nothing more. A murmur of agreement spread through the delegates. A Cereleon orb drifted closer, its telepathic voice echoing in Vance's skull. Your kind is too young, too divided. The Hive will erase you as they have erased others. Vance's fingers curled into fists at his sides. He forced them to relax. You're making a mistake. Vexlath tilted its head, compound eyes reflecting Vance's image 1,000 times over. Mistake? No. This is calculation. Your armies fight as individuals. Your governments bicker. The Hive is perfection. You are. It made a dismissive gesture with one clawed limb. Noise. Laughter, or the alien equivalent, rippled through the chamber. Vance felt his face heat, but he kept his voice level. You've never seen humans when we're cornered. The Cereleon orb pulsed with amusement. Brave words. But words do not win wars. The Arbiter raised a segmented limb. The matter is settled. Earth is deemed a non-threat by Zentax assessment, and thus ineligible for Federation protection. Petition denied. The finality of the words struck Vance like a physical blow. He opened his mouth to protest, but the chamber lights dimmed, signaling the end of the session. Delegates began to disperse, already moving on to the next agenda item. Only one being remained, a lone Octavian diplomat, its tentacles coiled tightly around itself. It lingered as the others departed, then glided closer. You should leave, it murmured, voice barely above a whisper, before the Hive scouts reach your system. Vance met its gaze, or what he assumed was its gaze given the lack of visible eyes, and abandoned billions to die. The Octavian hesitated, then extended a data chip with one tentacle. Then take this. It is unofficial, but it may buy you time. Vance pocketed the chip without looking at it. Why help us? The Octavian's skin rippled with colors Vance couldn't interpret. Because the Federation has grown complacent, and sometimes the galaxy needs chaos to remind it of order. With that, it glided away, leaving Vance alone in the vast chamber. He exhaled slowly, then activated his comm. Vance to Earth Command. They've made their decision. The response crackled through. Understood. Fall back to the rally point. We'll proceed with contingency plans. Vance glanced at the empty podiums around him, the mocking silence where moments ago his species had been dismissed as irrelevant. He tapped the data chip in his pocket once, then strode from the chamber. They wanted a show of human weakness. He'd make sure their last sight was humanity's fury. The derelict hull of the USN Titan's fist loomed in the darkness of the asteroid belt, its once gleaming armor pitted by centuries of micrometeorite impacts. Captain Mara Cole floated through the zero-gravity corridors, her boots magnetized to the deck as she ran a gloved hand along the frost-covered bulkhead. The ship was a relic, a dreadnought from humanity's first interstellar war, decommissioned and left to rot when the Federation deemed it obsolete. Her cybernetic eye flickered with diagnostics as she stepped onto the bridge. The air was stale, frozen in time. Dust motes swirled in the dim emergency lighting. A faded plaque near the captain's chair read, "To the last stand." Cole exhaled, her breath fogging in the cold. "She's still got teeth," she muttered. Behind her, Lieutenant Reyes, her engineer, tapped at a rusted console. Sparks flew as systems groaned back to life. Reactors are offline, but the core's intact, just needs a kick. "Then kick it," Cole said. Reyes grinned, slamming his fist into the override panel. The ship shuddered, deep in its belly. Ancient fusion reactors whined, then roared. Lights flickered on section by section, bathing the bridge in a harsh white glow. Alarms blared, systems screaming after centuries of silence. Cole gripped the captain's chair as the artificial gravity engaged. Her boots thudded against the deck. Status. Engines at Fey weapons. Reyes whistled. Railguns are green. Point defenses. Scratched but functional. A crackle over the comms. "Captain, this is Vega on the Wrath of Sol. We're online reactors holding." Another voice cut in, deep gravelly. Promethean reporting guns loaded and hungry. Cole smirked. 3 ships, a skeleton crew of volunteers against the Zentax Hive, a Federation observer, a Phosphorian diplomat with crystalline skin, floated into the bridge on an anti-grav disc. "This is insanity," he hissed. "These ships are museum pieces. The Hive will tear through them like paper." Cole didn't look at him. "They're not here to fight the Hive." The Phosphorian blinked. "Then why?" To buy time, she turned to Reyes. "Open a channel to Earth Command, priority encryption." Static hissed. Then a harried voice answered, "Cole, what the hell are you doing?" "Something stupid," she said. "I need everything we've got on the Zentax neural network, every scrap of intel from the last war." "You're not seriously thinking—" "I'm thinking the Hive made a mistake," Cole interrupted. "They think we're weak because we don't have a hive mind, because we argue, because we disagree." She glanced at the plaque again. "Let's show them what disagreement looks like with railguns." Reyes whooped across the fleet. The same sentiment echoed through the Wrath of Sol's battered corridors, the Prometheans' gun decks. Engineers welded patchwork armor onto hull breaches. Gunners loaded shells older than their grandparents. The Phosphorian shook his head. "You'll die." Cole finally looked at him. "Probably," she leaned in, "but we'll take a chunk out of them first." A proximity alarm blared. Reyes swore. Captain long-range sensors just picked up a Zentax scout fleet heading for Mars. Cole's jaw tightened. "Then we move now." The Titan's fist groaned as its engines flared. The ancient dreadnought lurched forward, its sister ships falling into formation. On the view screen, the stars stretched into streaks. The Phosphorian backed away. "You're all mad," Cole grinned. "Welcome to humanity." The fleet jumped to warp. The Zentax swarm ship descended through Earth's atmosphere like a falling star, its organic hull pulsing with sickly green bioluminescence. Buenos Aires' skyline glittered beneath it, unaware of the horror about to unfold. Thousands of armored drones spilled from its gaping maw, their chitinous bodies clicking in perfect unison as they descended on repulsor fields. Hive Speaker Vexlath observed from orbit, his command tendrils twitching with satisfaction. Primary target, human population centers, standard harvest pattern Delta. The drones moved in flawless formation, their neural links singing with the Hive's will. This would be over within hours. On the ground, Sergeant Miguel Reyes adjusted his welding mask and tapped the detonator in his palm. His militia squad crouched behind the shattered remains of a bank vault, their mismatched armor spray painted with crude warnings, "Bugs, go home." The streets were too quiet, too still. "Remember," Reyes whispered into his cracked comm unit, "we don't fight fair." Across the city, hundreds of civilian volunteers waited at their posts, school teachers with plasma cutters, dock workers manning jury, rigged artillery, teenagers with stolen hive, tech grenades. The Federation had abandoned them. Earth Command was still scrambling, but Buenos Aires had been preparing for this since the Council's verdict. The 1st Drone Battalion touched down in Plaza de Mayo, their blade, limbs extended for slaughter. They paused, their compound eyes scanning empty streets. Then the fountain exploded. Improvised plasma mines tore through their ranks. The blue fire melting chitin and severing neural links. Drones stumbled, their perfect formation collapsing into chaos. From nearby rooftops, sniper teams opened fire with armor, piercing rounds calibrated to penetrate the weak joints in Zentax biology. Vexlath's mandibles twitched in orbit, rear port. The Hive's collective consciousness rippled with confusion. Human resistance was supposed to be centralized, predictable. This was wrong. Reyes led his squad through the sewers, their boots splashing through filthy water. "They'll expect us to defend hospitals," he muttered. "So we mined the damn hospitals." Above them, a Zentax scout drone scuttled over a manhole cover, just as a teenager on a bicycle lobbed a Molotov cocktail from an alley. The explosion sent shrapnel skittering across pavement. In the Hive's command nexus, Vexlath reviewed the carnage with growing unease. Human cities were supposed to be soft targets, yet every block became a death trap. Drones reporting in from the financial district found stock exchanges rigged with electromagnetic pulse devices. Those sweeping residential zones triggered pressure. Plates releasing clouds of neurotoxins stolen from a Zentax wreck 6 months prior. A particularly disturbing feed showed a kindergarten classroom where smiling human children's holograms lured drones into a nest of shaped charges. The explosives were wrapped in nails, dipped in. Vexlath's antennae stiffened, Zentax hemolymph poison. Humans were using the Hive's own biology against them. "Adapt pattern Gamma," Vexlath commanded. The remaining drones shifted tactics, abandoning population centers to target military installations. They descended upon Fort Fin Guerrero, expecting hardened resistance. Instead, they found abandoned barracks playing recordings of human laughter over loudspeakers. The moment drones breached the gates, the entire base's power grid overloaded in a cascade of fusion explosions. Captain Cole watched from the Titan's Fists bridge as thermal scans showed Buenos Aires burning. But the patterns were all wrong. "They're not retreating," her tactical officer murmured. "They're regrouping." On the ground, Reyes grinned as his comm crackled with reports. The Zentax were falling back to landing zones, their flawless coordination fracturing under the strain of unpredictable resistance. A child's voice piped over the militia channel. "Papa, the bugs are dancing in the park. We lit the sprinklers with gasoline." Vexlath's ship trembled as damage reports flooded in. 37% drone losses in the first hour. Unprecedented. The Hive's consciousness shuddered as disconnected drones died alone, their final moments filled with human screams and a strange, rhythmic pounding. What the survivors identified as music's blasting from captured comm units. A new transmission cut through the chaos. Drone phase feed showed it cornered in a subway tunnel by elderly humans wielding welding torches. Their leader, a woman with silver hair, stepped forward and spoke directly into its visual receptors. "You picked the wrong planet, sweetheart." The feed cut off as flames engulfed the drone. In orbit, Vexlath's claws dug into his command console. This wasn't warfare. This was madness. Humans didn't defend. They lured, didn't protect. They sacrificed. Their cities weren't treasures to guard, but weapons to wield. The Hive's perfect logic strained to comprehend it. Reyes emerged from the sewers near the wreckage of a downed Zentax dropship. His squad moved swiftly, planting charges on its still, thrumming power core. As they retreated, a wounded drone twitched at his feet. Its mandibles clicked weakly. Reyes paused, then crouched beside it. "A bug," he whispered, pressing a grenade into its cracked thorax. "Take this back to your queen." He sprinted away as the explosion lit up the avenue. Aboard the Titan's fist, Cole's sensors registered the detonation. Her crew cheered, but her eyes remained fixed on the tactical display. Buenos Aires should have fallen in minutes. Instead, the Zentax advance had stalled across 6 continents. Every city, every village fought with the same terrifying ingenuity. Vexlath's ship suddenly lurched as a new alert flashed. Human satellites supposedly disabled had reactivated, bombarding the Hive fleet with scrambled signals. Not jammers, not viruses, music, screams, laughter. The Zentax neural links writhed under the assault, their perfect harmony disrupted by humanity's chaotic chorus. On the surface, Reyes wiped blood from his brow and keyed his calm. Alright, Nefeos, Phase 2. Let's show these bugs what happens when you kick a hornet's nest. Across the city, manhole covers blew open as militia teams surged upward, their weapons jury rigged from stolen hive tech and human stubbornness. Vexlath finally understood his mistake. The council had been wrong. Humans weren't weak because they lacked unity. They were strong because they could think and fight alone. And that made them unpredictable, unstoppable, terrifying. The bridge of the Titan's fist hummed with tension, the red emergency lights casting long shadows across the faces of Captain Mara Cole's skeleton crew. The ancient dreadnought systems groaned under the strain of reactivation, but they held, barely. Cole's cybernetic eye flickered as she studied the tactical display. The Zentax swarm ships had already begun their descent toward Earth's major cities. Buenos Aires burned. Tokyo was under siege. The Federation's so-called neutral observers hovered at the edges of the conflict, watching, waiting for humanity to fall. "Status report," Cole barked, her voice rough from hours without rest. Lieutenant Kessler, a wiry man with grease smeared across his forehead, wiped his hands on his jumpsuit. "Railguns at 60%, shields holding, but barely. And we've got company 3 Hive interceptors breaking off from the main swarm. They'll be in firing range in 2 minutes." Cole's jaw tightened. "Then we don't have time to debate." She turned to the vault at the rear of the bridge, its surface etched with faded warnings. Project Lazarus, authorized use only by Earthcom High Command. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Ensign Reavers, the youngest of them, swallowed hard. "Captain, that's a pre-FTL vault. Whatever's in there, it's ancient, probably unstable." Cole didn't hesitate. She punched in her command codes, her fingers moving with the precision of someone who had memorized the sequence long ago. The vault hissed open, revealing a single cylindrical device, its surface covered in peeling warning labels. "Unstable?" Cole smirked, lifting the canister with surprising ease. "Oh, it's unstable, all right, but not in the way you think." Kessler leaned in, squinting at the faded markings. "Quantum, plague, what the hell is that?" Cole's smile didn't reach her eyes. "A gift from our paranoid ancestors, designed during the First Cold War, back when we thought Ace might try to enslave us. Never used, never even tested." She turned the canister in her hands. "Until now." The bridge fell silent outside. The first volley of Zentax plasma fire rocked the ship, sending sparks raining from the ceiling. Reavers gripped his console. "Captain, the Federation's hailing us. They're screaming about violating interstellar law, something about unrestricted bioweapon deployment." Cole snorted. "Tell them to file a complaint." She handed the canister to Kessler. "Load it into the torpedo bay. Set proximity detonation for 5,000 clicks from the nearest Hive mothership." Kessler hesitated. "Captain, this thing targets Hive. Mind linkages if it works." "If it works," Cole interrupted. It won't kill them. It'll free them. The crew stared at her. Cole's voice dropped, low and dangerous. The Zentax think unity is strength, that individuality is weakness, but they've never faced a species that weaponized free will. She turned back to the display, watching as the hive ships descended like locusts. Let's give their drones a choice. Another impact rocked the ship. Alarms blared. Torpedo loaded. Kessler shouted. Cole didn't flinch. Fire. The canister streaked through the void, a silent, unassuming projectile against the backdrop of war. The Federation ships scrambled to intercept, their commanders screaming about containment breaches and galactic destabilization too late. The quantum plague detonated in a burst of invisible energy, rippling outward in a wave that bypassed shields, armor, and biology for a moment. Nothing happened. Then the hive ships twitched. On the bridge of the nearest mothership, drone, face staggered, its chitinous hands clutching its head. A voice, not the hives, not the collective, whispered in its mind. Remember, images flooded its consciousness, a planet it had never seen. A name it had never known, a life but drone. Faye's mandibles parted. It spoke, not in the chittering clicks of the Zentax, but in halting, broken English, transmitted across stolen comms. We remember. The words echoed across the battlefield. Another drone took up the call. We resist. Then another and another. The hive's perfect unity shattered like glass on the Titan's fist. Cole watched as the swarm ships convulsed, their formations collapsing into chaos. Drones turned on their overseers. Motherships vented atmosphere as internal rebellions tore through their corridors. Kessler let out a disbelieving laugh. Holy hell, it's working. Cole didn't celebrate. Not yet. She opened a channel to the Federation observers, her voice cold. You called us unworthy, said we lacked cohesion. She gestured to the view screen, where the hive tore itself apart. This is what happens when you corner a species that values freedom over obedience. The Federation liaison, a Cerelion orb hovering in its containment field, pulsed with distress. You've unleashed an abomination. The political ramifications. Cole cut the transmission outside. The first hive mothership exploded, its core breached by its own children. The war wasn't over, but the tide had turned. The Zentax swarm ship shuddered like a living thing in its death throes. Deep within its pulsating organic corridors, something impossible was happening. Drone Faye stopped mid-stride, its razor-sharp appendages trembling. For the first time in its existence, it remembered. Across the comms network meant for hive commands, a new voice crackled through. Not the monotonous drone speak of the collective, but something raw, uneven. Human, we remember. The words came out halting. The vocal cords of a creature never meant to speak. We resist. On the bridge of the Titan's fist, Captain Mara Cole watched the tactical display with a predator's grin. The red dots marking Zentax ships were flickering, some vanishing entirely, others turning against their own. It is working, whispered Lieutenant Cho, his fingers hovering over the weapons console. Cole didn't answer. She was listening to the feed from Buenos Aires, where the same phenomenon was unfolding. A freed drone had picked up a fallen militia rifle, its movements jerky but determined. It fired on its former kin, his voice shouting in broken Spanish. Captain, Comms Officer Ruiz said, her voice tight with disbelief. We're getting reports from 7 other hive ships, the plague spreading faster than projected. A hologram flickered to life on the main display. Ambassador Vance, his face smudged with soot, standing in what remained of the Federation bunker on Luna. Cole, the Council's losing their minds. They're demanding you stand down the Lazarus protocol. Cole barked a laugh. Tell them to file a complaint. She turned to her crew. Full broadcast, every frequency, every open channel. Let the whole damn galaxy hear this. The Fist's comms array hummed, and suddenly the voices of 1,000 freed drones flooded the airwaves. Some screamed, some wept, some sang, off-key stumbling, but singing all the same. A group near Mumbai had somehow gotten hold of an old radio transmitter and were broadcasting La Marseillaise on the Zentax command ship. Hive speaker Vexlath staggered as the first wave of disconnection hit. The chorus of a million minds, once perfectly synchronized, was now a cacophony of individuality. His chitinous plates rattled as he clutched at his thorax. "This is not warfare," he screeched into the void. "This is madness," a new voice answered him. Not a drone, but Ambassador Vance, his transmission overriding the Hive's own channels. "No, Vexlath, this is humanity." Deep in the bowels of the Hive mothership drone, Faye, no, not a drone, not anymore, pushed forward. His name was something. He couldn't remember yet, but he remembered the faces of the humans he'd been ordered to slaughter, remembered their defiance, remembered the way they'd fought for each other, even when the Hive's logic dictated they should have broken. He picked up a fallen plasma cutter, the tool humming in his unfamiliar grip around him. Others were doing the same. Some were still frozen, caught between the fading Hive impulses and their newfound selves. One, a former maintenance unit, was methodically ripping apart the organic control nodes that kept the ship bound to the collective. On the Titan's fist, Cole watched the tactical map dissolve into chaos. Entire swarms of Zentax ships were going dark, their drone armies turning on their commanders. A massive dreadnought near Jupiter suddenly veered off course, its engines flaring as it rammed another Hive vessel. Ruiz let out a disbelieving chuckle. "They're mutinying." Cole leaned forward, her cybernetic eye whirring as it zoomed in on the carnage. "No, they're choosing." The plague wasn't killing the Hive. It was doing something far worse, giving its victims free will, and the Zentax, for all their galactic conquest, had never planned for rebellion from within. A new transmission cut through, this one from a Cerelion observation ship near Mars. The floating orb of its commander pulsed with frantic light. "Human vessels, this is unacceptable. You're destabilizing the entire..." Cole muted them with a flick of her wrist. "Save the speeches." She opened a fleet, wide channel. "All human ships, this is the fist. The Hive's breaking. Push the advantage. Target their command nodes, but do not fire on freed drones." As if to emphasize her point, the main display showed a Zentax dropship, now piloted by its former cargo of drones, landing in the middle of a human militia position. Instead of opening fire, the hatch slid back, and a dozen trembling, newly awakened Zentax stumbled out. Their weapons discarded, one of the human fighters, a grizzled sergeant with a cybernetic arm, hesitated for only a second before stepping forward. He tossed his rifle to the ground and extended a hand. The lead Zentax stared at the offered limb, then slowly, clumsily reached out. On the bridge of the fist, Cho exhaled sharply. "Holy hell, they're surrendering." Sol allowed herself a small, grim smile. "No, they're joining." The galaxy was watching, the Federation, the warlords, the mercenaries and the pacifists, and every species that had ever dismissed humanity as weak, as divided, as unworthy. And what they saw would change everything. The bridge of the Titan's fist shuddered as another plasma volley slammed into its buckling shields. Warning klaxons wailed, and the acrid stench of burning circuitry filled the air. Captain Mara Cole gripped the command console, her cybernetic eye flickering with damage reports. The holographic tactical display showed the Hive mothership looming ahead, a grotesque, pulsating mass of organic armor and writhing tendrils. Around it, the remnants of the Zentax swarm fleet burned, some torn apart by railgun fire, others drifting lifelessly as their drones awoke to rebellion. "Status," Cole barked, her voice raw from hours of combat. "Shields at Faye %," Lieutenant Reyes called out, his fingers flying over the flickering controls. "Port thrusters are gone. The Wrath of Sol is down to her last torpedoes, and the Promethean shares not responding, Captain." Cole's jaw tightened. The Promethean had taken a direct hit to her engines, her crew buying precious seconds for the fist to close the gap. She could still see the explosion in her mind, the old dreadnought's hull splitting apart in a silent, fiery bloom. "Then we make this count," she said, turning to the navigation officer. "Helm, set collision course full burn." A beat of silence. The crew exchanged glances. "You heard me," Cole snapped. "We ram that bastard." The bridge erupted into motion. Alarms blared as the Titan's fist angled its crippled bulk toward the mothership, its remaining thrusters flaring to life. The Hive vessel loomed larger on the view screen, its surface crawling with drones, some still mindless, others now fighting their own kin in chaotic, desperate skirmishes. "Captain," comms officer Lin shouted, "we're getting a signal from the mothership. It's drone Faye." Cole nodded. "Put it through." The speakers crackled, then a voice, halting, human accented, filled the bridge. "We have breached the central node. The core mind is vulnerable, but it fights back. It's killing us." Cole's fingers dug into the console. "Hold on, Faye, we're coming." The fist shuddered again as another volley of plasma streaked past, this time from a surviving Hive destroyer. The ship's AI, its voice glitching, announced, "Hull integrity critical. Estimated time to impact 90 seconds. Reyes," Cole said, "activate the Lazarus payload. Arm all remaining warheads." The lieutenant hesitated. "Captain, if we detonate this close..." "I know." Cole's voice was steel. "Do it." Across the bridge, the crew worked in grim silence. There were no protests, no pleas. They had known the price when they signed on. The fist plowed forward, its battered hull groaning under the strain. The mothership filled the view screen now, its grotesque anatomy visible in horrifying detail. Veins of glowing ichor, pulsing sacs of matter, the writhing masses of drones still locked in combat. Then, without warning, the mothership convulsed. A section of its outer hull ruptured, spewing debris and lifeless drones into the void. Through the gap, Cole could see the flicker of explosions deep within, the freed drones turning the Hive's own weapons against it. "Bake's people are doing their part," Cole murmured. "Now we do ours." The distance closed 50 seconds. "Captain," Lin suddenly shouted, incoming transmission from the Wrath of Sol. Admiral Kessler's face appeared on the screen, his bridge a mirror of their own chaos. "Mara, you madwoman, what the hell are you doing?" Cole smirked. "Finishing this." Kessler's expression darkened. "The Federation's screaming at us to stand down. They're terrified of what the plague's doing to the Hive. They're calling it a war crime." "Let them," Cole said. "They left us to die. They don't get to call the shots now." 30 seconds, Kessler exhaled. "Then let me buy you some time." Before Cole could respond, the Wrath of Sol veered sharply, its remaining thrusters flaring as it positioned itself between the fist and the Hive destroyer. "Kessler," the Admiral's voice was calm. "Tell Earth we held the line." The destroyer's plasma cannons fired. The Wrath of Sol took the full brunt of the barrage, its shields failing instantly. The ship detonated in a blinding flash, the shockwave rattling the fist's already failing systems. 10 seconds, the mothership was all that remained. Cole gripped the console, her voice steady. "All hands, brace for impact." The Titan's fist struck. The collision tore through the mothership's ruptured hull, the fist's prow burying itself deep into the Hive's fleshy interior. Alarms screamed. Bulkheads collapsed somewhere. Deep in the bowels of the ship, the Lazarus payload activated. On the bridge, the last thing Cole saw was the view screen. A flash of light. Then the mothership's core splitting apart, its once mighty form consumed by fire. And then, silence. Across the battlefield, the remaining Hive ships spasmed as the plague surged through their networks. Drones froze mid-combat, their eyes flickering with newfound awareness. One by one they turned, not toward the human fleet, but toward each other, toward the stars. A single, fractured voice echoed across the comms, a chorus of 1,000 liberated minds. We are free. In the ruins of the mothership, the Titan's fist's core detonated, its final act a beacon of fire and defiance. Cole's last transmission crackled across the void, reaching every ship, every freed drone, every stunned Federation observer. You deemed us worthless. Now beg? The chamber of the Galactic High Council had never known silence like this. The bioluminescent walls pulsed weakly as if afraid to draw attention. Ambassador Elias Vance stood at the center of the circular platform, the weight of the last transmission from the Titan's fist heavy in his hands. Around him, the delegates of 17 species sat motionless, crystalline phosphorians dulled to near opacity. Octavian tentacles coiled tight Cerelion orbs, hovering at half their usual height. Vance dropped the data pad onto the central dais. It clattered in the stillness. "Play it," he said. The hologram bloomed to life above them. Scenes of chaos and triumph unfolded, human guerrillas in the ruins of Buenos Aires, setting traps with scavenged hive tech. The Titan's fist, its hull cracked and burning, plowing into the heart of a Zentax mothership. And then the drones, thousands of them, their chitinous faces twisted in something the hive had never allowed them to feel. Choice. One of them, its carapace streaked with the blood of its former masters, stood before a stolen comms array. "We remember," it said. The words clumsy in its mandibles, but clear. "We resist." The recording shifted. Captain Maracol's face filled the display, her cybernetic eye flickering, the bridge of the fist collapsing around her. Behind her, the core breach alarms wailed. "To the Galactic Federation," she said. Her voice steady despite the smoke filling the cockpit. "You dismissed us, called us weak, said we lacked unity." A smirk twisted her lips. "But you were wrong. Our strength was never in obedience, it was in defiance." The feed cut to static. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then high-speaker Jexel of the Phosphorians pulsed a dull violet, their version of a shudder. "This was not war. This was heresy." Vance laughed. The sound was sharp, unexpected. "No, this was humanity." He swept his gaze across the assembled delegates. "You let the hive come for us. You called us unworthy of protection. And now you see what happens when you corner a species that would rather burn the galaxy than kneel." A Cerelion orb drifted forward, its telepathic voice trembling. "You infected them, not with a weapon, but with freedom. An old human trick," Vance said. "We've been fighting tyrants since before we left our homeworld. Did you really think we wouldn't have a way to break a hive mind?" The Octavian delegate, Zixthal, uncoiled one tentacle to tap at the data pad. The drones, they're singing. The recording had looped back to the freed Zentax. They stood in the wreckage of their former prison ship, voices raised in something raw and untrained. The melody was unmistakable. La Marseillaise, the anthem of a revolution centuries dead on Earth. Vance's smile was thin. "We didn't just free them, we gave them history, music, the things the hive stripped away." Jexel pulsed again, this time, a sickly green. "And the Titan's fist, Captain Cole?" "Gone," Vance said. She took the last hive command node with her. The rest of the drones woke up the second the link broke. He leaned forward, planting his palms on the dais. "So here is the lesson, delegates. You thought unity meant strength, but real strength, it is in the will to stand alone, to fight when the odds are impossible, to look at a galaxy that abandoned you and say." The doors to the chamber hissed open. A figure stepped through, armored in scavenged Zentax chitin, one arm missing below the elbow, face streaked with soot and blood. The surviving crew of the Titan's fist stood behind her, just as battered, just as unbroken. Captain Mara Cole took one limping step forward. "Say you were wrong." The chamber erupted. Delegates recoiled, some in fear, some in awe. Jexel's crystalline form cracked along one edge. "You were on the ship," Zixthal stammered. "The transmission, the core breach." Cole grinned. "Oh, we blew up the fist, just not with us on it." She tossed a small device onto the dais, a Zentax Hive, Link, now dark and dead. Turns out, once you free a few billion drones, they're real eager to help you fake your own death. Vance crossed to her side, clasping her remaining hand. The hive's gone, he said to the council. Not because we destroyed it, because we gave its victims a choice. That is humanity's doctrine. That is what you dismissed as weakness. Silence fell again, heavier this time. It was the Cerelion who spoke first, their orb bobbing in what might have been respect. We will revise our threat assessments. Cole barked a laugh. Damn right you will. She turned, her crew falling in behind her as she strode for the exit. At the door, she paused, glancing back. Oh, and one more thing. She tapped her temple in mock salute. Never mistake mercy for weakness. The doors sealed behind her, leaving the galaxy to reckon with what it had underestimated.